Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Innovators Radio. I am your host, Ralph Brogdon, and I have a very exciting guest joining me today. His name is Afif Ghannoum. He is a formerly frustrated lawyer that has launched over 10 products and have sold in over 27,000 stores. He's the founder of napkintoshelf.com. He has 2 patents. He has licensed technology to a large pharmaceutical company for a product that sold in tens of thousands of stores in multiple countries. He's raised over $9 million in venture capital, and he's going to talk today about how to create, launch, and monetize your consumer products. So, Afif, welcome to the program, and I look forward to hearing your wisdom.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it too.
So, tell us a little bit about more of what you do. You obviously have a lot of experience in this area, but how did you get started doing this?
Yes, so you kind of mentioned it. My background is my training's actually as an attorney, and I was a corporate attorney at 2 of the largest firms in the country, and tons of hours, and everybody's heard sort of the type of hours that it takes when you're working at a large law firm. So what I found was 2 things. One, I really hated the fact that at the end of the day, if I wasn't selling my time, I wasn't making money. And I didn't like that because as I looked at some of the older partners, I saw even, guys in their 60s that if they weren't putting the time in, they weren't getting paid, even if they were doing phenomenal legal work. And the other thing I noticed, which really got me, was that in the type of work I was doing, we're doing a lot of M&A deals, so mergers and acquisitions. And I saw that at the close of every deal, I was helping someone else realize their dreams. And, we dealt with a number of entrepreneurs who were selling up their company to massive companies. And I just thought, man, that's really what I want to be doing, So having a legal background, and increasingly, as many of your listeners probably know, legal issues come up in all sorts of areas in business. And I thought, you know what? I have quite a bit of exposure to the business side of things. I understand the legal. I'd rather, bet on myself because this was not the life I wanted to be living. So it wasn't a comfortable conversation. I told my wife I wanted to leave this sort of cushy but, tough 6-figure job and take a shot on myself, but I've just always believed that there's no such thing as, true security even nowadays. If you work at a big company, I thought I'd rather bet on myself and take a chance because otherwise I'd regret it. So with a couple other guys, I raised capital to start launching and selling products mainly in the over-the-counter drug space. And that turned into, 11 products that we've launched, and one of which was named Best New Product of the Year by the top 100 retailers in the country. So it's been a wild but exciting ride.
Wow. So it sounds like that you made the distinction at some point, as many service providers do, that your income is limited to the amount of hours that you put in. And it sounds like you began to see the value of creating a product that would basically free your time but allow you to make money over and over again. So you've scaled your income in the process.
100%. And, I deal with all sorts of, and I come across other product entrepreneurs that do just, even now as we're talking on the phone, not to sound cheesy, but how is right now buying one of my products in a store or on Amazon or something. And, I know other guys. There's a guy I literally just did a case study on who he makes a couple $100,000 a year selling products on Amazon, but he lives in Bali for a few months a year. Then he goes to, New Zealand or Europe. So he's making money passively. And I think he spends about a half hour a week, which I wish I could do in my business. Yeah. But, it really does. You're leveraging an asset other than your time to make money.
That's really important because a lot of people listening are service providers, and the model of business that you've discovered, it's kind of like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, which I'm sure you work more than 4 hours a week,
Right.
as do I. But his model is you create a product. A lot of people online are creating digital products, but you went into the physical world, the actual world of pharmaceutical and retail,
Right.
and created your products. What caused you to go in that direction as opposed to the way everyone else is going with digital and online products?
Right. So I think there's this misconception that it's really hard to create a physical product. And listen, some are. If you're trying to create, an ultra complicated gadget with an engine, yeah, that's pretty involved and it's very, very expensive. But for a lot of products, and I sort of stick to what are called specialty chemicals, basically anything you can mix in a bottle or squeeze out of a tube, right? So for anything from vitamins to toothpaste to car wax is considered a specialty chemical. Something like that, it's so easy nowadays, especially with the internet, that you can find a good manufacturer, get it private labeled, have somewhere like Amazon actually take and ship your orders, where the labor that used to be involved with actually creating physical products has really been nullified. Like, we sell units a month of our product, and my total staff is 4, and our office space is about 2,000 square feet, and we never actually see the product. It goes from our manufacturer to our warehouse that sends it to retailers or Amazon. And it's kind of funny, sometimes we'll have investors stop by, ask for samples, and we don't have any because that's the thing that I love about physical products. Now, I do stuff on the information side as I've gotten further along. And what's funny is it's actually way more effort to create digital products because you've got to keep coming up with fresh content and fresh, productization of the information, which is difficult. Whereas once you create a consumer product that works, we have some products that I don't, they're literally on autopilot and they sell, 10,000 units a month. We don't do anything. Like, our biggest pain was we recently moved offices and we had to update our artwork to reflect our new address. You know what I mean? So once it's in place, it's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. That's good to hear, because I think with the whole internet thing, people think the only business they can get into is a online business selling an information product, and you're definitely proving them wrong with your business. You were the founder of napkintoshelf.com, which is a great name.
Thanks.
The idea is you're going to show people how to create, launch, and monetize their consumer products. So you've worked with a lot of different people and a lot of different projects and products. What are some of the common problems you run into helping the people that you help?
Yeah, so it's funny. When I first came up with it, I get approached a lot because people, especially after Shark Tanks, programs like that, people love the idea of coming up with a product. So I would get approached a lot, like, oh, how do you actually do this? So I really noticed there was not a one-stop resource for how to launch and grow consumer products. So I initially thought it would be sort of the woman at home who had a neat idea that would approach, me, and that's sort of what I started off. But what I realized was I started getting inquiries, and I literally have worked with that lady who's got an idea all the way to, we're doing a project for $100 million plus e-commerce site that doesn't know how to get to the next level. They feel like they've sort of done everything they can. So we're using some digital marketing techniques to help them get in front of people. So probably the biggest problem I see is that people don't know where they should be putting their efforts when it comes to like either launching or growing a brand. And I've literally had people approach me after they've spent a couple $100,000 on everything from specialized formula to patents, and they're really making no progress because they're spending their time in the wrong place. And so that's probably the biggest problem I have is I see people having is, the dirty secret is it really isn't rocket science to do any of this stuff. But if people put this sort of pressure on themselves thinking, if there's a will, there's a way, and we're sort of sold that messaging that you just have to want it bad enough. But it's like, I use the analogy of, I really like to eat and I like to go around to restaurants. That doesn't mean I know or am qualified to run a restaurant, right? I don't know the first thing about it. So why would most people know how to launch a product? So that's the biggest thing I see, is that people get, frustrated. They end up spending a lot of time and frankly money, and they're just putting their efforts in the wrong, space, or they're doing it in the wrong order. And I'll give you.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll give you a very simple example. One of the things I see, the big problem is people don't think about where they're actually going to sell their product till way down the line. And that's really one of the first things they should figure out, because if you sell a product on QVC, you frankly could have dumpy packaging, because it doesn't really matter, because by the time someone, sees the product, they've already seen it on QVC, and they've seen it demonstrated, and they see the wonderful effects it has. So when it shows up on their doorstep, it's just bubble wrapped and it's just the bottle, right? Whereas if you sell it at Walmart, you better have phenomenal packaging that, sings the praises of the product, because that's your one shot, especially as a small entrepreneur, to stand out, is with your packaging, So if you don't figure out early on where your distribution is going to be, you could end up spending a lot of time and effort on other activities like packaging or advertising or all these other things that don't really matter. So, that's a simple example of why in place is important.
It's very similar to a business person who focuses on having the latest, greatest website. And they think by designing their website and spending all their time in this area, they're going to get a lot of business. So then they build the website and then what? Nothing happens.
Right.
So it's kind of a correlation there to entrepreneurs getting focused on the wrong thing in the process, and you help them to prioritize what they should be focusing on. So that leads me to the next question: is what is the first step? You've got someone they have an idea for a product, they've never done this before. What would be the first step towards making that journey to product creation, to take it from the napkin to the store?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So unlike many people, my sort of passion, if I have one, is I love that moment when I realize, okay, we have something here. I don't really care what the product is. I just get a kick out of that. But for a lot of people, they are truly passionate about something. Maybe it's gardening or, car products or, fishing. And that's where their idea for a product comes. So one of the biggest things I see that people do is that they let that passion or their love for this idea that they're so convinced it's a good idea color the fact that maybe it's not, or maybe it doesn't actually solve a problem, or it's not a big enough problem for people to solve, right? So the first thing they really should do is, and on my site I have a bunch of different articles on how to do this for free, is take the time to actually figure out if people will buy your product. And there's a number of ways to do that through, I'll give you a very simple example. Even just a simple Google search will tell you a tremendous amount of information, right? If I use the example that I like to use of coming up with a solar-powered messenger bag that would actually charge your phone or your laptop, kind of a neat idea, right? So I would go on and I'd want to know one of two things. One, am I the only person who's thought of that? And people may think that's a good thing. It's actually, I think, a bad thing, because if you're the only person doing something, it's going to be very expensive to educate people about what your product does and that you exist, right? And, people talk about this idea of blue ocean, but I always, joke that, who was surrounded by blue ocean was Tom Hanks in Castaway. And you saw how that worked out for him. So I always like to see that at least there's some other people around the idea. And, a great example is then from there, you want to bring a unique angle to the party. So look at James Dyson, right? Everybody knows the famous Dyson vacuum and the cyclone and all that, right? Now, what James Dyson didn't have to prove to anyone was that his magical machine could actually pick things up off the carpet, and that was the way to clean your house. People had already bought into that concept that vacuum cleaners worked. He just had a better way to do it, right? So, but the main thing is you really have to take the time to see if what you've made actually is needed by consumers. And the second thing I'll do on Google is check the price of what similar products are selling for, because again, you can have the most amazing product in the world, but chances are if your price, you're going to have to price that to make money, which is ultimately the only way you stay in business, is 10 times what the average price is. Chances are people are not going to opt for the $50 option when they could get something that's maybe not as good for $5. So that's just a simple example but that's the first thing I do is you got to make sure people actually want your product.
It reminds me of something Michael Gerber said years ago, talking about the difference between a product and a brand. A product, according to the way he defines it, is something that no one's ever seen before. A brand is just a different variation on a general concept that they've already bought into, like your vacuum cleaner example. So how would someone greatly improve their chances for success taking a product from napkin to shelf by working with someone like you? What do you bring to the table that really helps get them from where they are to where they want to be faster and more efficiently than if they just try to do it on their own?
Yeah, so it's a phenomenal question, and honestly, it's pretty simple, and it really comes down to, this isn't rocket science, but after years of doing this, and literally our company is spending millions of dollars in figuring out what works and more importantly, what doesn't, I really know exactly what it takes to get a product launched and growing as efficiently as possible, right? But I only know that because I've been through it. As I said, I've come across a lot of people who get frustrated because they think they just don't have it in them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting stuck because, people are really sold on this idea that if you want something badly enough, you just have to do it and you can achieve anything. But I think that's ridiculous pressure to put on someone to try and do something they haven't done before more efficiently. And you said that, and that is truly the key, because any of this stuff is entirely possible to do yourself without any help, because it's not fundamentally that difficult, but you're likely going to make a ton of mistakes and waste a lot of time and money along the way. So where someone like myself comes in is that I've done this. I can help you navigate efficiently through the launch and growth process. And again, lay out listen, forget about this. You can come back to that. Concentrate on this, get this done, and then come back to that. So it's really about that. Now, again, are there those dynamos that can do it from step 1 through, step 100 and be successful? Yeah, I came across a guy named Chris Hulen, who he came up with these amazing wireless earbuds. He was an accountant. Well, he raised almost $2 million on Indiegogo. He found manufacturers. He did it all himself. Now, this guy, he's also, a former professional football player, worked at, Big Four accounting for this is a wonder kind type person. So he's an exception, right? But for most people, again, and it's not just people starting out. Like I said, one of my biggest clients is a $100 million e-commerce site that was very intrigued by some of the digital stuff we were doing, asked us to implement some stuff for them. So there's no, we look at it as there's no monopoly on good ideas or good experience, and people who get that. And, that's why I take my time looking at, other than, our sort of out of the box products, anybody we work with personally, they've got to get that, right? That it's, something that if you think you know all the answers, then it's probably not a good place to come, because nobody, I learn stuff every day, and this stuff, especially in the digital age, changes so fast that it's not like it used to be, where you could just go to a retailer and do the sales thing and get on shelf, and we'll check back and see how it's doing next year. Now every single day when I sell at Walgreens, they know down to the unit how many units we've sold, and they want to know how am I driving their customer to them today to buy the product. So, it's just an amazingly interesting area. And, we keep on top of the trends. And that's the other thing is I'm not some sort of coach that just, I did this once upon a time. every day we have 11 products. We're launching another product here in the next couple of months. But this is what we do. So we're on top of the latest trends and all those things. So yeah.
That's awesome. And that leads me to the next question I was wondering about. Can you share anything about what you're working on right now that's got you really excited?
Yeah, so we're launching a really innovative oral care product that I think is going to be a game changer in the breath care space. But at this point, that's kind of all I can say about it. But I will tell you, the last time I was this excited about a product, we won Best New Product of the Year. So I feel pretty good about it. We've got patents around it. So that's something I'm pretty excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how can our listeners, if they're sitting there thinking, yeah, that this sounds like something I'm interested in, I want to find out more, how could they get in touch with you?
So the best place is to check out my site, as you mentioned, napkintoshelf.com. You can always drop me an email and I'll spell it because, my name's not Roger Smith. It's Afif, A-F-I-F, at napkintoshelf.com. Again, that's Afif at napkintoshelf.com. Just feel free to drop me a line, and that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with us? Yeah,
honestly, if it was easy as just reading a book and doing it, we'd all be millionaires and have six packs. These things are not easy. And I think people forget that. And if it is hard, that means you're onto something. And the other thing I'd say is, again, I sort of touched on this, but it's amazing and important to be passionate about what you're doing and an idea, but don't let that passion color your thinking when it comes to really figuring out if your good idea is ultimately a good business. Because I think it's very easy to sort of give this never give up mentality and let that overtake when sometimes it's a dud and you should just move on. So, that's why I sort of do strategic testing and failing. I don't fall in love with any idea. It's the old, don't fall in love with a house you want to buy. If that's the way you got to look at these things, because it's a cold, cruel world that at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is the consumer's opinion, and that's whether they're going to buy your product.
Afif Ghannoum, founder of napkintoshelf.com, who teaches people how to create, launch, and monetize their consumer products. Afif, thanks so much for being on the program today. I really appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.